back. We have about a week and a half left of 2021, and we're moving into a new year, 2022. And one of the main focuses for the new year for my husband and myself is on getting a better grip of our finances, paying off some debt, building things like a sinking fund, an emergency fund, things of that sort. So I wanted to start a financial series on my channel to discuss how we're doing that, give you guys an idea of like what our process is like and how we budget. So starting in January of 2022, we will be officially living off of one income, my husband's income. I mentioned to you guys before that I work on Saturdays and Sundays only. It is considered part-time, and I do have, right now I have health insurance for my son and myself. And after health insurance is paid, I have like maybe a couple $100 left over. Unless I've done like overtime or something. And for this month, I've done a couple days of overtime. But starting officially in January, the entire family will be on my insurance. So that's both my son, my husband, my stepson, and then when my daughter is born, my daughter. So basically my checks will completely pay for health insurance. And then after that, I maybe have like $100 left over, which is just going to cover my gas for when I want to go to work, which is fine. But I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit and kind of give you an insight into how we budget our expenses. So my husband works in car sales, and I'm pulling up my phone here so I can show you guys what we do on my phone. I'm going to do a screen recording on my phone and then post the screen recording beside while I'm talking. So my husband works in car sales. If you know anyone who works in any kind of sales, you know that their pay is basically commission based. So it's really dependent upon how much you sell is going to determine what your monthly income is going to be. We have one joint account, which is where our direct deposits go into, and that's the account that I use to pay all of our bills. And then we each have individual accounts for spending money if we have any. So, one thing, what I decided to do, I created a joint email account for my husband and I so that all of our bills are sent to that email account. It's set up on both of our phones, so anything that I can see, my husband is able to see. But the reason I did that was so that we both had access to Google Sheets. Now, any of you guys who have a Gmail know that Google has a lot of different applications that you can use. Google Sheets, Google Doc, Google Slides, a bunch of stuff. And so I made a Google Sheet that both of us have access to. And this is where I put all of our monthly bill amounts in. Like I said, because my husband's job is commission based, it helps him to know what our upcoming expenses are. So that kind of gives him an idea of, okay, you know, we have rent due on the 1st or whatever. So I know I need to try to sell X amount of cars to pay that. So I went ahead and got our January bills put in into the spreadsheet. And what I like about Google Sheets is that the updates are live. So I'm gonna stop it. The updates are live. So anytime I change something in the spreadsheet, my husband is able to see it on his phone immediately. So anytime he's like, hey babe, can you go over the bill checklist, make sure everything's updated so I have an idea of what the bills are for next month. I just go in there quickly, update it, and then he's able to see it as I'm updating if he wants. So I'm going to start recording, and then I'm going to pull up our spreadsheet and then post it beside here so you guys can see what I'm looking at. So I go into our Google Sheets. So this was our stuff for December. Okay, so here is our bills for January, sorry. So, my husband gets paid twice a month. It's on the normal paydays are on the 10th and the 25th. That can vary depending upon if it's a holiday. Like, for example, because Christmas is on Saturday this year, the bank holiday technically falls on a Friday, so he should be getting paid tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. But so I have all of our bills for the month that we pay put into this spreadsheet, and then I break it down into like what paycheck he'll need to pay that bill with, depending upon when the bill is due. So, monthly bills that we pay, we have rent. My husband has an IRS bill. He's paying off taxes. Daycare, which I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute because we're not actually paying daycare. I just have it there. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Brad's car. This is his car notes. Let me edit that. Why does it say Brad Care? Whatever. His car note, my car note, our car insurance, our phone bill. We have three small credit cards. The gas bill, electricity, cable, and groceries. And then we also pay tithes and offerings with every check. And then there's a category for savings. So those get filled in later once he kind of knows what the check is going to be. So, like I said, I break it down by pay period. So that way, over the entire, he can look at this and say, okay, this is how much our bills are for the month. And so for the month of January, our bills total to $3,538.76. So he can look at this and say, okay, cool, that's how much our bills are. This is how much I need to have, blah, blah, blah. So certain things, like for example, where it says Jazz's car. So my car note is actually $416 a month, but I get a check. I get one last check in December that's going to have overtime on it. So I'm paying half of my car note then. And then when he gets paid on the 7th, he's paying the other half. Our phone bill, the full bill is like $2 something, but we normally just break it down into 2. So that's why you see it there twice. And then credit cards, we're paying down our credit cards. Our credit cards don't have a very big limit. I think one has like 300. I think 2 have 300 and then one has 5, but we had to use those like over the summer to help pay some bills. So that's where we're paying those down. Gas bill is for the house. So as I mentioned in an earlier video, we do stay with my parents right now. So utilities are split. And then we also pay half of the rent. Our rent is $1,200 here, but we only pay $600. Gas bill is normally pretty cheap, but because it's winter, we're running the gas more often. So it's higher. And then we have electricity. And then for the cable bill, we only pay for the internet portion of cable, our cable bill here, because we don't actually watch cable. And my stepdad has like a bunch of extra stuff that only he uses, so we only pay for the internet portion of that. And then an estimate of $150 for groceries. So, like I said, I like to do it this way because it gives him a good overview of what the expenses are going to be for the month. And then it kind of helps him figure out like a ballpark of how much money he needs to make, basically how many cars he needs to sell over the month to make sure that he, makes enough after taxes to pay this. So going into the daycare category, I mentioned that it says daycare, but it's not actually for daycare. So starting next week, we are actually going to be keeping our kids home full time. So because I work Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to keep my schedule that way, especially because I'm about to go out on maternity leave. And we are pulling my son out of daycare. This is his last week. Thursday's his last day of daycare. And then when my daughter is born, she's going to stay home as well. So they'll be home with me Monday through Friday. And that's going to help us save money. So I think I mentioned in the last video, that what we're doing with that daycare money is putting the excess of it towards our car notes because we're trying to pay off our car loans within the next year. 2 years max, but it would be great if we could get it paid off in the year. So I calculated that if we take the money that we pay right now towards daycare for my son, and then the money that we would have paid for daycare for my daughter, if we take that plus what we already pay for our car notes, we can have those paid off. And that'll be one debt that we get rid of. Now, a couple of other things that I am looking to do, that I'm going to be doing for the new year, is starting a sinking fund and starting an emergency fund. Now, the emergency fund is very, very important, especially now because we're living off of one income. And then if, like I said, if you work a commission job or you know anyone who works in commission, you know how it is. Sometimes it's, sometimes you have a really good month and then sometimes you have a bad month. And especially with car sales, we're getting ready to move into the season where they start to slow a little bit. But normally when people start getting their taxes back, people start to buy cars. And so the sales start to pick back up. So building an emergency fund is top priority for me because I want us to be in a position where if my husband has a slow month or whatever, I would love for us to be in a place where we have at least 2 months worth of all of our expenses in an emergency fund. So an emergency fund is what it is in the name. It's an emergency fund. So this is a savings account that we do not touch unless it is an emergency, meaning my husband's not working. For example, my husband wants to take a month off for paternity leave when my daughter is here. His job doesn't actually have a paternity leave. They just kind of leave it up to you for how much time you want to take off of work. And he's already started talking to them about that. And he's told them like, hey, I want to be able to take a month off, especially because we're going to have both kids home. Him taking a month off is really going to help me with the transitioning from having a toddler to a toddler and a newborn. So that's going to be able to kind of give me a little bit of relief. And then also he'll just have time to like be able to go spend some more time with my stepson and just have a break because my husband works very hard. He's basically at work all the time and he doesn't really get a break. So he wants to be able to have that time off. So that's the first thing. And then I'm also starting a sinking fund. So your sinking fund can be for various things. Our sinking fund is going to be for moving expenses. So towards the end of 2022, like around November, December timeframe, we're looking to move. We're going to take until then to take these extra couple of months to save up, but we are planning to move towards the end of the year, the new year. And so instead of waiting until around that time frame to try to come up with all this money to pay for moving expenses like the security deposit, first month's rent, we have to buy like furniture. We got rid of our couches. We got rid of our washer and dryer. We got rid of a lot of stuff when we moved here. So we have to basically start over from scratch. So, like I said, sinking fund for that, and then the emergency fund. And then later in the year, no, let me back up. So for right now, we're putting money away for my husband to be able to take off for that month for paternity leave. We're trying to prepare for that. But another thing that I would love to do this year is start a savings account for all of our kids. I wish we would have started this sooner. We're definitely late in the game, but to be quite honest, we've had a lot of financial trouble. So, and we're just now in a place where we are staying afloat financially. So, my goal is to start a savings account for all of our kids. The very first one would be an account for my stepson because he's 8. He's turning 9 in 2022. And so because he's I think I want to do his first because he's the oldest and he's going to be turning 18 first. This would be an account that our kids would be able to access when they're 18 to either pay for college expenses, or just, I don't know, help buy a car, pay for college, basically to just help them get a kickstart in life. And so because he's the oldest, my top priority would be to start one for him. I'm sure he has one. I'm pretty certain he has one. Like, I'm sure his mom has one for him, but we really want to be able to have something for him as well. So that's the first one. Like I said, because he's the oldest. So, and he goes to college sooner. He's going to be going to college first if he goes to college. So, and then starting a fund for my son and my daughter. So I'm still doing research on the best account to open that with, because I would like to put the money in a high yield account, something that's going to gain interest, so that by the time they're all 18, you know, they get a good chunk of money out of it. So I'm still doing some research on what account is the best for that. I was taking a look into Capital One, and that one seems pretty good. And then I'm also looking at credit unions. We bank with USAA, which I really like. But I don't know. I just have to keep looking and comparing, like the interest, the interest that each account gets, to figure out which one I want to use. So yeah, there's definitely a plethora of things that we need to do. But I just kind of wanted to get the conversation started because 2022 is the year that we get out of debt. I want to start doing a monthly review of our finances and our budget on this channel. So I'll probably make a video towards the end of January going over where we started off with and where we are during that time in terms of our emergency fund and our sinking fund. And like I said, this video was just kind of to get the conversation started, to kind of try to give you guys an idea of what our process is for how we budget our expenses. I don't know if anybody else uses Google Sheets, but honestly, it's very helpful, especially if you are trying to juggle one income, or if you and your spouse or whatever are trying to budget your expenses. It's a good way for you to get an overview of what you have to spend throughout the month. And I love monthly budgeting versus budgeting paycheck to paycheck, because you just never know. You could plan to pay a bill with one check and then you end up not having the money. So if you look at it from a monthly aspect, it kind of gives you a better overall picture of what it is that you need to do to produce for that month. So we're going to continue the conversation. Thank you guys for tuning back into my channel. I have a lot of exciting videos planned for you guys. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the subscribe button below, and to hit that notification bell so you can be notified when I put out a new video.